What's going on, y'all? It's Coach PJ, and I'm here to talk about boxing shoes. Yes, what to wear when you are training. There are so many different options when it comes to your choice for footwear, and there's so many different types of athletes. So how do you know what is best? Well, I'm gonna give you guys a few options today, talk about the pros and the cons. Check these out. Let's talk about the first option, a boxing shoe. This is my Nike boxing shoe. Probably one of my favorite, most reliable training shoe that I've had for some time. Now, you'll notice, like most boxing boots, they're gonna be very lightweight. They're gonna have a flat bottom, which is gonna help you pivot and move and rotate, which is amazing for technical movements. There's gonna be a high ankle support, but not a lot of support here. So for me and for most fighters, you wanna preserve and use your boxing boot for your sparring, for your ring work, when you have chances to hit mitts or to work drills. But when it comes to the day-to-day training, the tread on the bottom of these can get worn down very rapidly. So because of the excessive expense with boxing shoes, typically I like to use these sparingly because, well, they work best inside the ring. Now, if you're training every day, you might end up going through a couple of these throughout the year. So my recommendation is to save these when you can, because you can perform adequately in other footwear. So this is up to you, whether or not you're going to use this on a daily basis. Now, you'll get great support from the foot and you'll be able to pivot well, but you might end up getting some injuries because, again, there's not a lot of support here. So the second option is a basketball shoe. This happens to be a Nike LeBron James 11 Soldier. Now, you'll see from the outserts that it's a much wider shoe, a little thicker, and there's going to be a lot more density and weight. The basketball shoe typically is going to protect your ankles, the bottom of your foot, and the sides a lot more than a boxing boot would. So this is my second choice for sure. Getting the stability that you need on your ankle, being able to move well without the fear of injury, and then an added bonus, you have a heavier shoe. So when you're moving around, performing fast, rapid movements, when you change out to the boxing boot, you theoretically should move quicker, faster, and be lighter. Third option, here goes a running shoe. And by no means is this a sponsored Nike ad. I just happen to have a lot of their product right now. So this is a Nike React running shoe. Now, just like the boxing boot, very, minimal protection, very thin on the top. However, the bottom you'll see is not flat as much. You have a lot more surface to sit into. So you can theoretically, pivot harder or being able to actually go longer. But there are some cons about the running shoe. They're flimsy up top, so you don't get as much stability into the ankle, but you can get a lot more drive into the heel. So I have in the past used my running shoes whenever I'm doing a quick workout. I just want to get it in and get it out, where I'm not paying full attention to my technique or trying to just hone in on power. The running shoe can be adequate, especially for those that are just getting into boxing and don't want to make the investment to get a pair of boxing shoes or pay more money for basketball shoes. Running shoes typically everyone has. So in the sense where you can learn and grow and train safely, the running shoe is an okay start. Let me keep it real with you. Not my favorite, but again, you can work well with a running shoe. They tend to typically be wider and they will give you a lot of support on the bottom, so you won't have as much issues with plantar fasciitis or problems with the heel. But again, over time, running shoes will bend and mold. And just like when you have to replace a running shoe, you're going to have to do the same thing if you're doing it more with boxing as well. So next option is a training shoe. Now, this is from York Athletic. It is specifically designed to train, to lift. I have used these for a lot of different workouts. I have boxed in them, I have lifted with them, and I have done some CrossFit workouts with them. So there is a decent amount of support on the foot in the shoe itself. This is also proof that this is not a sponsored Nike ad. So I do have other shoes, and these tend to, again, have some support on the bottom, but they're not as supportive on the top of the ankles. So most times when you're training or lifting weights, you're not cutting or moving or pivoting. Thus, they're designed is not really essential for boxers. So I would steer away from the training shoe just because the ideal is to press down into weight, to be able to lift heavy loads. So you don't always need to have that high ankle support when they make them. Now, if this is the only option that you have, that's okay. You can make do with what you got. So be sure to make sure you're warming up well if you're using just a training shoe. Also, I might even suggest going to the next option that might be a little better than a training shoe. And the last one, the wild card, is actually training barefoot. Now, that's foreign to a lot of people, but in the boxing, kickboxing world, a lot of professionals, a lot of people throughout the decades have trained barefoot. Some of our greatest fighters, even in a sense, Mike Tyson, would actually train without socks, almost basically having a barefoot experience inside of his boxing boot. But for us today, training barefoot can actually add some versatility. It can actually strengthen the muscles and the bones and ligaments and joints in the feet, giving you a longer, stronger base. But there can actually be some more mobility and flexibility inside, not having any restrictions. Now, warning, I would not go barefoot on every training surface. If you are able to be in a nice controlled rubber mat, go ahead. I think that's a great place. But if you're training outdoors, that's not the best. Sand, an amazing place to use your feet to actually build up and to train your nervous system and to become better at balance, movement, even agility. So barefoot training is great, especially when you are kicking. It's one of the greatest ways that some of the greatest fighters have learned. And even in some of the sports around the world, Muay Thai, kickboxing, you don't get to wear shoes. So why not train in that element? If you have not trained barefoot before, highly recommend it. You might fall in love and never wear shoes again. Who knows? But again, there are plenty of options when it comes to selecting the type of footwear or no footwear when it makes boxing training effective, efficient. What you wear on your feet matters. It's not a matter of fashion, but in a sense of training towards your goals, the setting, your tempo, your experience, you have to train and you have to pick your footwear accordingly. Now, I just laid out a couple of different options, but there's endless ways to protect and cover your feet when you're boxing. Let me know down below in the comments what you wear when you train. And if you're looking for more boxing and kickboxing inspired workouts like this, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you get the notifications as soon as we release these videos. Until next time, Coach PJ signing out.